Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Kung kailan mo man ito napanood, please comment down below. And don't forget to subscribe. This is our continuation sa ating topic na reliability sa psych assessment, psychological properties, and principle. That is essential in constructing, selecting, interpreting tasks. Okay? Nakaraan is tinapik natin yung reliability, pahapiawan natin yung reliability, tinapik natin yan. Tapos yung classical test theories or true score theory, measurement error, random errors, systematic error, yung mga ganyan, like meron ding mga test, retest, yan ang parallel form, split half, internal consistency, interscore, ano ba yung mga dynamic, static, restriction of range, mga ganyan, power test, split test, power test, latent trait theory, mga ganyan, dominant sampling theory, classical test theory, creation reference test, mga ganon, standard error measurement, standard error for score, confidence interval, reliability, estimate, homogeneous, mga ganyan. Hindi ko alam kung na-topic natin to. Reliability estimate. Nature of the test will often determine the reliability metric, homogeneous unfriction, or heterogeneous multi-factor, dynamic, unstable or static, stable, range of score is restrict or not, speed test or power test, yan na topic, wala natin ito mga to. Creation or non-creation, the test sensitivity, defect true positive, test specific, in test specificity, specificity, direct true negative, base rate, proportion of the population that actual process, the characteristic of interest, selection ratio, number of available position compared to the number of applicants, for possible hints and missed outcomes, true positive sensitivity predicts success that does occurs, true negative specificity predicts failure that does occur, false positive type 1, success does not occur, false positive type 2, predict failure but success. Tako na po tayo dito sa may validity. Validity is how well a test measured that supposed to measure. Okay? Wait lang natin yung ano natin. Lang. Ito. Evidence about the appropriate of inference drawn from the test scores. The validity is the degree to which the measurement procedure measure the variable to measure. Ito ay inference, logical result, o deduction. may diminish as culture or limit changes. Ang pipitik natin yung future performance. Second is measure the appropriate domain. Last but not the least is measure appropriate characteristic. Okay? Where is my... Dun. The concept of validity. Okay? Validity is a judgment or statement of how well the test measure what is purpose to measure in particular content. Okay? Is a judgment based on evidence about the appropriateness of inference down to the test score. Inference, logical result, or deduction, weak or acceptable, are phrases used to characterize the validity of the test. The valid test means that the test has been down to the valid for the particular use with a particular population of test takers at a particular time. No test is universally valid for all time. The test is only valid within its responsible boundaries. If those are exceeded, the test may be cancelled into question. Since no test is universally valid because time and culture is ever-changing, their validity have to be re-established when needed. Okay? Validation, gathering and evaluating evidence about validity typically performed by both test developer and test user. However, supplying the evidence in the test manual is the test developer's responsibility. Local validation studies naman po ay conducting test validation study using the test user's own group of test takers. It is provide insight about a particular population as compared to the normative sample in the manual. Useful when the test user plan to alert in some way, format, content, instruction, and language to cater certain population. Meron pa tayong ditong train view. Dito muna tayo. Palawakin muna natin to. Masasabi ko pa dito is meron tayong tinatawag na Trinitarian view, a traditional way of conceptualizing validity according to three categories. First is content validity, second is citation relative validity, last but not the least is construct validity. Ang content validity, guys, is a measure of validity based on an evaluation of the subject, topics, or content covered by the items in the test. Ang criterion relative validity naman po is a measure of validity obtained by evaluating the relationship of the scores obtained on the test to to scores on the other tests or measurements. Ang construct validity naman po is a measure of validity that is arrived by executing a comprehensive analysis of how score on the test relates to other test score and measure, and how the scores on the test can be understood within some theoretical framework for understanding the construct that the test was designed to measure. This is view construct validity is the umbrella validity, since every other kind of validity falls under it. Okay? Strategies. The strategies approach in test validation process, there are many kinds of strategy. Right. For instance, content validation, creation related validation, and construct validation strategies. Okay? Validity approach naman tayo. Validity approach. Validity. Sa validity approach under the Trinitarian view, not mutually exclusive. Each contributes to a unfilled picture of the test validity. The ecological validity refers to the validity of the test at the time and place that the variable being measured, for example, is typical behavior, cognition, or emotion, is actually imitated. Is actually imitated. Sa related to ecological momentary assessments o yung EMA natin, EMA, in the moment and in the place, valuation of target variables such as behavior, cognition, and emotion in a naturalistic or real-life context. Okay? Ayan. We have here validation studies yield insight regarding a particular proportion of test takers as compared to the norming sample described in the test manual. Sa internal validity naman po, this is degree of control among the variables in the study, increased through random assignment. Okay? Sa ating external validity naman po, generalizability of the test result, increased through random selection. Okay? Sa conceptual validity, ba't nalipat-lipat na? Sa conceptual validity naman po natin, it's focused on individual with their unique histories and behaviors, means of evaluating and integrating test data so that the client's conclusion make accurate statement about the examined. Okay? Sa face validity is how relevant the test items appears to be relates more to what the test appears to measure of the person being tested. If a test defined appears to measure what it purports to measure on the face of it, then it could be said to be high in face validity. For example, sa impulse to measure personality, kapag mababa yung face validity, ang personality test that asks about how introvert or extrovert is a person is tataas naman ang validity. Okay? Unlike other three kinds of validity, judgment about the face validity are frequently true of form of the perspective of the test takers, not only the test user. Okay? Sa face validity, the lack of face validity is equal to confidence in the perceived effectiveness of the test. 2. Low cooperation and motivation of the test takers. Face validity has low relevance in terms of psychometric standards. However, it is important in public relations matter because a test that is perceived irrelevant can have various consequences. Okay? Content validity. Content validity is when the proportion of material covered by the test approximates the proportion of the materials covered in the course. Okay? Sa ating blueprint test, more logical than statistical, okay? It's concerned with extent to which the test is representative to define body of content consisting the topic and the process. Blueprint panel of experts can review the test items and rate them in terms of how closely they match the objective or dominant specification. This test blueprint is examine if items are essential, useful, and necessary. This is contract underrepresentation, failure to capture important component of a construct. The construct irrelevance naman po happens when the score are influenced by factors irrelevant to the construct. Logic developed by the formula of content validity ratio. 0 CVR, exactly half of the expert rate item as essential. Okay? Face content validity natin. Content validity is a judgment of how adequately a test sample behavior representative of the universe of behavior that the test was designed to sample. A content validity test includes key components of the construction target of the measurement and exclude content irrelevant to the construct target of the measurement. In educational achievement tests, a content valid test means that proportion of material covered by the test approximates the proportion of materials covered in the course. Early stage of test development typically entails research, exploring the universe of possible instructional objects of the variable. From the pool informed along with the judgment of the test developer, there emerge as a blueprint for the structure of the evaluation. That is a plan regarding the types of information to be covered by the items, the number of items tapping each area of coverage, the organization of the item test, and so forth. This blueprint represents the culmination of the efforts to adequately sample of the universe of content area that conceivably could be sampled in such tests. Okay. Criterion validity. This is more statistical than logical. Okay. A judgment of how adequately a test score can be used to infer an individual's most probable standing on some measure of interest. The measure of interest being criterion, okay? Criterion, yan. Criterion related valid a judgment of how adequately the test score can be used to infer an individual most probable standing on some measure of citation. Okay. Creation standing, the standing against which the test or the test score is evaluated. Operationally, a creation can be most anything. For instance, a test score, a specific behavior or a group of behavior, an amount of time, a rating, a psychiatric diagnosis, etc. Okay? Whether the citation ideally it is relevant, valid, and uncontaminated. Okay? Relevant patient nito or applicable to the matter at the hand. Number 2, valid if the test X is being used as the criterion to validation of the test validation a second test Y, then the evidence should be exists that the test X is valid. Uncontaminated naman po, citation contamination is the term applied to creation measure that has been based at least in part on predictor measure. If the variable were used both as a prediction and as a creation, then we would say that creation combination had occurred. In accommodation evidence that has been used to formulate a test cannot be used as a criterion in validating the same test. Okay? The two types of creation relative valids are concurrent validity and predictive validity. The concurrent validity, an index of the degree to which a test score is related to some creation measure obtained at the same time currently. Ganun. Sa predictive validity naman po is an index of degree to which a test score predicts some creation measure. Okay? Sunduin daw si Made. Okay? May mahaba na rin pala ito, no? So, let's go back and forward, looking forward to construct validity or umbrella validity. Katulad nga ng sinabi ko kanina. Congruent validity, if the test score are obtained at about the same time as the creation measure of the obtained measure of the relationship between the test score and the criterion provide evidence of congruent validity. Congruent evidence for validity applies when the test and the criterion can be measured at the same time. Okay. Evidence of congruent validity indicates the content to which test score may be used to estimate an individual's present standing on the creation. On a criterion. Validating criterion, a test score or measurement used as criterion in congruent validity. Okay? Ang masasabi ko dito, yan. Criterion validity is more statistical than logical. Yung criterion natin stand on which judgment or decision may be made. Okay? The characteristic niya is relevant, valid, uncontaminated. Okay? Dito sa creation contamination occurs when the creation measured includes aspects of performance that are not part of the job, or when the measure is affected by construct irrelevant. By Messick, 1989. Okay? Factors that are not part of the creation construct. Okay? Meron ba nun kasunod? Meron tayong current validity if the test scores obtained at about the same time as the creation measure are obtained economically efficient. Meron ding predictive validity, measure of the relationship between test scores and citation measured obtained at a future time. Meron ding incremental validity, the degree to which an additional predictor explain something about the creation measure that is not explained by predictors already in use. Used to improve the domain. Used to improve the domain. Related to predict validity occurs when defining as the degree to which additional predictors can explain something about the creation measure that is not explained by predictors already in use. Construct validity covers all type of validity. It is a logical statistical judgment about the appropriate of inference down from the test score relevant regarding individuals standing on verbal called construct. Okay, our construct. This is a one way a test developer can improve the homogeneity of the test contain dichotomous items is by eliminating items that do not show significant correlation coefficient with total test score. If it is an academic test and high scores on the entire test for some reason tend to get that particular item wrong while low scores got it right, then the item is obviously not a good one. Some contracts leads themselves more readily than others to predictions of change over time. Dito naman po sa method of construct groups. Okay? If a test is a valid measure of a particular construct, then the scores from the group of the people who does not have the construct would have different test score than those who really possess that construct. Okay? Sa coverage converge evidence, if the score on the test undergoing construct validation tend to highly correlated with another established valid test that measured the same construct. Okay? Sa ating discrimination evidence naman po, test is homogeneous. Okay, this test is the test score increase or decrease as a function of age, passage of time, or experimental manipulation. Okay, and this is also the pre-test or pre-test post-test difference. Okay, this is a discrimination evidence. The score differ from groups. Score correlated with score on the other tests in accordance to what is predicted. Okay? Sa factor analysis naman po tayo. Sa factor analysis, this is developed by Charles Spearman, employed as a data reduction method. This is used to study the interrelationship among the set of variables. Okay, it's also identify the factors in common between the test scores on subscale within a particular test. Okay, explanatory factor analysis is estimating or extracting factors, decide how many factors must be retained. Okay? Ito yan. Sa dito naman po tayo sa confirmatory factor analysis. This factor is research tests that the researcher tests the degree to which the hypothetical model fits to the actual data. Sa factor loading naman po, conveys info about the extent to which the factor determine the test score or the scores can be used to obtain both coverage and discriminant validity. Okay? Factor analysis po ito, ha? Factors ability. Hindi na lang makita. Yan. Sa factors analysis po natin, both convergent and discriminant evidence of construction validity can be obtained by the use of factor analysis. Factor analysis is a shorter term for a class of mathematical procedures designed to identify factors or specific variables that are typically attributes, characteristics, or dimensions on which people may differ. In psychometric, it is employed In psychometric, it is employed as a data reduction method in which several tests of the scores and the correlation between the item array are analyzed. The purpose of this is to identify the factors in common between of the test score on subscale within a particular test, or the factors in common between scores in series of tests. Factor analysis is conducted on either an explanatory or a confirmatory basis. Explanatory factor analysis is typically entails estimating or extracting factors, deciding how many factors to retain, and routing factors to an interpredictable orientation. Confirmatory factor analysis is the research test the degree to which the hypothetical model, which includes factors, fits the actual data. In the factor loading in the test conveys information about the extent to which the factors determines the test score of the score. Okay? Next na tayo dito sa may cross-validation. Parang di ko to na topic itong discriminant evidence. Discriminant validity, okay? Discriminant validity evidence, it is achievement. Tama ba ako? Okay. It is achievement when the test scores show statistically insignificant relationship with the test that is not theoretical, be correlated with the variables being measured. To demonstrate discriminant evidence for validity, a test should have low considerations with measure of unrelated constructs or evidence for what the test does not measure. Discriminant by providing evidence that the test measured something different from other tests. We also provide evidence that we are measuring the unique construct. Discriminant evidence indicates that the measure does not represent a construct other than the one of which was diverse. Okay? Cross-validation, guys. Cross-validation revalidation of the test to a creation based on the other group differs from the original group from which the test was valid. Okay. Validity shrinkage decrease in validity after cross-validation. Co-validation naman po is validation for validation of more than one test from the same group. Ang co-nominating naman po, nominating more than one test from the same group. Okay? Next na tayo dito sa may bias. Test bias. Test bias, a factor inherent in the test that is validity, bias, and fairness. Questions concerning the validity of the test are intimately tied to questions concerning the fair use of the test and the user of the basis and fairness. The test bias. Test bias, a factor inherent in the test that systematically prevents accurate, impartial measurement. Bias implies systematic variation. A biased test will leave consistently and systematically higher score where scores when administered to a certain group of people. Okay? Rating error is a judgment resulting from the international or unintentional misuse of a rating scale. Rating a numerical or verbal judgment or both, okay, that place a person or attribute along a continuum identified by a scale of numerical or words descriptions known as a rating scale. Okay? These are three errors. Okay guys, First is leniency or generosity error, an error in rating that arises from tendency on the part of the rater to be latent in scoring, making an order or a grading. Okay? Dito mo po sa severity error, ratings are consistently over negative, particularly with regard to the performance or ability of the participants. Okay? Last but not least is central tendency error. Okay. Ito pa pala yung isa. Pag ano pala yan. Central tendency error is the ayan, is a rater exhibit a general and systematic reluctance to giving ratings at either the positive or a negative extreme. All of the rates would tend to cluster in the middle of the rating continuum. Rankings a procedure to overcome restriction of the range. Rating errors. It requires the rater to measure individuals against one another instead of gaining an absolute scale. The rater, now the ranker, is forced to select first, second, third choices and so forth. Meron din po tayong tinatawag na halo effect, the types of rating error in which rater has a tendency to give a particular rate a higher rating than he or she obtained deserved. This is because of the rater's failure to discriminate among conceptual distinct and potentially independent aspects of a rater's behavior. Meron din po tayong approximately error. Okay? Approximately error kung saan if the preceding items was rate on which the individual was given a very variable or unfavorable rating, the rater may tend to let the behavior respond set. Okay? Carry over the next time item on the item. Okay? For instance, the result will be rating on the test the result will be rating on the next item slight higher or lower if unfavorable than might otherwise be given. This error illustrates the influence that surrounding items have on the rating once give a person on a particular item. It's also called order effect. Okay? Meron din tinatawag na primacy effect of first impression. Information present early carries more weight than information present later. Okay? Meron din pong construct effect. The performance of the test takers affect the perception of the performance of the next test takers. It also happens when the test takers will receive a lower score if she or he is not similar to the test user in terms of personality, attitude, race, membership, and such. Ang daming error guys. Meron din po tayong similarity error kung saan ang test taker will receive the higher score if he or she is similar to the test user in terms of personality, attitude, race, membership, and such. Meron ding negative information bias. The fact that negative information receives more weight in an employment decision does not a positive information. Okay? Dako naman po tayo dito sa test fairness or test fairness. The extent to which a test used in an impartial, just, and equitable way is the opposite of the test bias. It is unfair to administer to a particular proportion a standard test that did not include members of that population in the standard sample. Okay? Sometimes the test is not inherently unfair. The use of the test data, like the use of any data, can be unfair. Okay? The relationship between the validity. Okay? Attempting to define the validity of the test will be futile if the test is not reliable. Theoretically, the test should not correlate more highly with any other variable than it correlates with itself. The maximum validity coefficient between two variables is equal to square root of the product of the reliabilities. We can have reliability without validity. However, it is logically impossible to demonstrate that an unreliable test is valid. Okay? So that dito na po nagtatapos ang ating topic ngayon. Next topic natin is about utility. Okay? Fairness. The extent to which the test is used in an impartial, just, and equitable way. Okay? Thank you. Please like and subscribe.